Hi there, my name is Steve Gerhardt, and as always, this is the Unagi Observer. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching the video. You guys know I love it when you do that because this is my little labor of love. So thank you for watching and being here. So for those of you who've watched in the past, you know that I did a review on a manga called Legend of Kamui. So in that review, I mentioned that there have been other things in anime, a couple anime movies and other storylines and, short novels and things like that. Well, today I'm going to review one of those anime movies called The Dagger of Kamui. And boy, is it something. Okay, so for those of you who remember the manga review I did of The Legend of Kamui, you will know that I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well written. It's about an interesting period of time, a lot of, kind of historical stuff going on there, actual historical stuff. And it basically takes place in the later part of the Tokugawa period or the Edo period. And has the trope of the shogunate is uncaring, unfeeling, and is basically taking advantage of everybody else and pitting everyone else against each other so that they can maintain their power. And as I mentioned before, there's been light novels, short novels, other manga. There have been a couple anime movies, and the one that we're going to talk about today is going to be the anime movie of The Dagger of Kamui. Now, this is directly from the idea of the Kamui legend, so to speak. But it is a different story. So keep in mind that everything's kind of different in these works. So sometimes, like for example, Kamui in The Legend of Kamui was an actual person named Kamui. In The Dagger of Kamui, the actual hero's name is Hiro, and not Kamui, but his dagger is called the Dagger of Kamui. So you get that kind of sense that there's some similarities there. The character design between the main character and what happens in the manga, or the characters in the manga, is fairly close. So if you had read the manga and this movie showed up and you saw the character Hiro, you'd be like, okay, I know what that's about. So just to give you an idea, it's an extension of this franchise. So this movie was directed by Rentaro. For those of you who may know who that is, he's done a lot of stuff. For those of you who don't know, Rentaro is actually a pseudonym for Shigeyuki Hayashi. And this guy has been around anime since the beginning. Like, he worked under Tezuka for the Atom series, and he's done storyboards. He's just like a lot of anime directors that are in their 80s and 90s now. They've done the storyboard, they've written the things, they directed all this different stuff. And Astro Boy, sorry, I said Atom. Astro Boy is what I meant to say. He's also directed and worked on Galaxy Express 999, Edu Galaxy Express 999, Armageddon. For those of you who know the Phoenix Saga, he did a couple episodes in that. He did Metropolis back in 2001, which is an outstanding movie if you haven't seen that. He's done so many other things. I mean, he's been around since the beginning, like I said, 1963, right? So The Dagger of Kamui comes out, let's get into some of the details here, came out in 1985. The release date was March 9th, 1985 in Japan. It came to America 2 years later. Side note on that coming up. It was fairly well received. People enjoyed it. Rintaro, again, was the director. It was illustrated by Mori Motorano. Katakawa was involved with this. Let's see here. I believe it was Madhouse was the production company behind Rintaro. And so it's got a lot of heavy hitters behind it. And it is it's a period piece, just like The Legend of Kamui, where we're looking at the Tokugawa shogunate and how they're the bad guys. And as is wont in a lot of these kind of samurai movies and things like that, where the Tokugawa shogunate are the bad guys, and our hero is the rebellious guy going up against the man, so to speak. Same concept here. So when the release happened 2 years later in 1987 in America, it was actually released on celebrity home entertainment. They renamed it Revenge of the Ninja Warrior, and they had to edit 22 minutes because they put it on the VHS label called Just for Kids. So there's a lot they had to cut out. The movie is about 132 minutes long. They had to cut out like 22 minutes of it to make this somewhat kid friendly. Which is kind of hard when you watch this movie. You go, how can you make this kid friendly? So anyway, so I thought that was an interesting aside there. Let's go into the plot. The plot, like I said, again, it's basically a downtrodden person, hero, who is swept up in events. Basically, the movie starts off with, this is not a spoiler, because it literally happens in the first 30 seconds of the movie. Rintaro's sister, adoptive sister and mother, they adopted him as a foundling, were murdered by a ninja. When Hiro shows up, he's kind of a tween, I guess, or 13 years old, whatever. He shows up, finds his parents, or his mother, his adopted mother and adopted sister's bodies laying there, and he picks up a dagger and a note that's in blood on a piece of cloth that's saying, this is our son's name, Hiro. These are his possessions. So it's this note and this dagger. It's the Dagger of Kamui. As he's holding the Dagger of Kamui and a little bit of blood's coming off of it, one of the people come up and behind him, see what's happening, and they of course blame him. He has to run away. And this giant of a Buddhist monk finds him, gets him, and says to him, he goes, I know you didn't do this. I know this was not your fault. So, come with me and I'll help you out. And so Kamui goes with him. And that evening, the guy points out to a one-armed man with a beard and his eyes cut, right? Scar over his eye. And he goes, that's the guy who killed your family. Oh, really? So he takes the dagger. Kamui, little boy, takes the dagger out, does the deed. And so the Buddhist monk goes, okay, we're going to take you in. I'm going to bring you to my village. By the way, this village is also a ninja village, or a shinobi village. So you're going to learn the way of the shinobi, and you're going to help us right wrongs in the countryside. It's all a lie. You figure that out real quick. I should say at this point in the movie, things are very, very confusing because there's a question as to whether or not Kamui actually killed his own father. I'm not going to let you know whether that's true or not because you have to watch the movie. So the guy, the Buddhist monk guy, Kente, is basically saying, okay, so we're going to send you off on a mission now. And we need you to find the treasure. And it's something that people were involved with, but we're stumped. Don't come back until you figure this out. So he sends Kamui off, and then he brings in these other shinobi, these other ninjas, and says, okay, you know what to do. Follow this kid and see what he does, and see if he leads us to the treasure. So the treasure, the point of the treasure, so you're going, oh, so this is a pirate story. No, not really. What it is that we are about to enter into the Boshin War, and we're about to enter in real life. We're about to enter in a number of conflicts which ends up with the final war against the Meiji, against who would become Emperor Meiji, and between them and the Tokugawa shogunate. And they need funding to be able to buy all the weapons and people and everything to put down all these rebellions and all this stuff. And so the Buddhist monk is working towards that end with the financial treasure of the Tokugawa shogunate. And they're working in cahoots, because if they get this treasure, which is supposed to be worth $100 million US or something like that, then they can do the thing. They can stamp out all the rebellion, and shogunate will continue on forever. So we've established that they're bad guys. Kamui doesn't know this yet, so he goes through a whole bunch of trials, and he goes through. He has ninjas coming attacking him, but then he's able to get away because they're letting him go, because then when we see what he does next, and then things he finds out, he figures things out about his family, and he figures things out about some of the people that are attacking to him who might be members of his family, and so forth and so on. So as we're going through this, we're working our way north into Hokkaido. The story works its way north into Hokkaido, and there is a whole bunch of American ships up there, and they figure out, and one of the places that he stops at is this old guy's place who keeps all this information from foreign countries. So he is aware of the world and what's going on around it, and he's just like, I know the shogunate doesn't want anybody to know this, but I know it, and someday I'm going to steal away on a ship and go around the world and do a big FU to the shogunate. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. So he gives Kamui this information. Kamui goes, hey, look, here's this note that I found. It's one of the many adventures. And the guy goes, oh, look in the hilt of your dagger, and there's more information. They discover that the treasure is in America. Okay? So they make their way up to Hokkaido, which is one of the places where foreign ships can kind of get to and kind of be able to kind of skirt the isolation effect and be able to trade and do illegal trade and stuff like up there. So they go up there, and the idea is that they're going to get onto one of these boats and they're going to go to America. At this point, he's got a little party of adventurers, himself and this shinobi woman. I don't even know how to explain her. Anyway, watch the movie, you'll figure it out. And of course, Sam, who is a slave from one of the ships. I'll get to that in a moment. So they get on board one of the ships, or they try to get on board one of the ships, and at this point, you think that the movie is going to be like about them preventing 10K from figuring out what's going on and ending it in Hokkaido. No. They actually do go to America. At one point, you're going to get a little bit of whiplash, geographical whiplash, because at one point you're on a boat, and the next point you see Kamui stepping out from behind a cactus as a train goes by in 1860s Utah. Yes, we're in America now. And there's some interesting liberties taken here. We get into some historical figures. Mark Twain helps him out. What Mark Twain is doing in Utah, I don't know, but apparently he was there and he helps Kamui out. Apparently, Captain Kidd, the pirate, this is actually his treasure. But even though he was hung on the East Coast, because that's where everything happened 150 years prior, he somehow managed to sail all the way around to California and hide his treasure in Santa Catalina. Just accept. Sometimes in anime, you just have to accept. So there you go. And then, of course, we get into the big fight, and we go on from there. All right, so that is basically the plot of Dagger of Kamui. I left a lot out because there's a lot of spoilers, actually. So let's talk about the actual quality of this movie. Should you watch this? Because it's Rintaro, when you realize if you know who Rintaro is, then you're going to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to see it just because it's Rintaro. And that's something to be said, because this guy's a legend, basically. And he knows what he's doing. I mean, it's very, very clear. In 1985, he put this, literally almost just a little over 20 years since anime started. He's been there from the beginning, so he's got an idea of what he's doing. And the animation quality for 1985, even watching it now today, is actually kind of stunning. You're going to go, wow. And all that was hand-drawn. There's no CGI. All that was hand-drawn, rotoscoped, or something to that effect. The closest thing you'll get to CGI is rotoscoping. And so the animation is quality. You're going to go, well, it's old animation. Yes, it is, from 1985. But when you watch it, you're going to be like, wow, so this is what was considered good in terms of animation in 1985. So it's very interesting to look at. But you can tell where they decided not to spend the money and where to spend the money. So they had a clear idea of what they cared about and what they didn't care about. So you see a lot of reused footage. You'll see very, from lush animation, backgrounds, movement, and things to something very, very basic, things like that. So it goes back and forth. So, but what's interesting is the sound in the movie. So Rintaro, again, this is all Rintaro, where there was a moment in the movie where the first time that it happened, where I was just like, oh, did my volume cut out? And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why is there no sound? And then you realize that that's done on purpose to give you an idea of the stealthiness of certain characters. So sound is almost a character itself in this movie. So it's really kind of cool. The intro theme is a little hokey. There's a lot of cawing, C-A-W, cawing, as in like a raven, tengu, and it's kind of weird, but the sounds used in it are very interesting. Like when the shinobi are running, it's shinobi by the sound of the running that they're doing, and the graphic that you see, the animation that you see. So it is very much technically a very pleasing thing to watch. It is violent. That's why I was kind of incredulous when I realized that they actually did this for kids video. I mean, it gets gory. It gets there. It's Rintaro. I mean, he did Dune Megapolis, for God's sakes, right? So it's going to be bloody. So there is that. It is violent and it is bloody. There is nudity. The story it's like your traditional samurai against the shogunate story up to a point, and then it just does that hard left turn when they go to America. We walk into a lot of different historical characters. Like I said, Mark Twain. We run into Saiko Takamori, the actual last samurai. That the movie, that horrible Tom Cruise abomination was supposed to be based on. Don't get me started. Anyway, so you meet a lot of historical characters. So at the end of this, should you watch this movie? I think if you are a fan of Rintaro and you haven't seen it, then of course you should watch it. It is Rintaro at probably at the top of his game, honestly, in terms of the animation, sound, and direction. The story kind of whiplashes you at one point, but if you take it for what it is, it's just a story, then you're going to be fine with it. I mean, we watch anime today that is like really off the shelf. I mean, some of the stuff like Chainsaw Man, which I love, you have a plush demon doggy with a chainsaw and chainsaw. You get the idea. So so if you can accept that, Chainsaw Man, then you should be able to accept the storyline in the Dagger of Kamui. So yeah, I think you should watch it, with the warnings that I gave you. And I think otherwise, other than those little things, not little things, but those things that I refer to, I think you should be able to enjoy this. Now, if you read the manga, The Legend of Kamui, this is not that. Okay, so just a warning, it's not that. It's going to be something different. It's part of the franchise, but it is something different. So there you go. So yeah, give it a go. See what good 1985 animation looks like. Get a taste of Rintaro if you don't know Rintaro, the director. This is a historical anime, meaning that I think this is something that where if you're an otaku, this is probably something you should watch and understand. Maybe even if you don't like it, you should understand it, to kind of do a deep dive into it and try to figure it out. So yeah, give it a go, see what you think. And if you've got any comments about it, down below, be nice, don't troll. And yeah, so that's it. Give it a watch. So that is it for The Dagger of Kamui, a movie that I think you should watch. Faubles and all. There's good, there's bad, there is interesting. So please give it a try and let me know what you think. And again, no trolling. Thank you. But yeah, so that's going to be it for this week. I'm not sure what you're going to get next week. Possibly a hodgepodge video, I think. But we shall see. We shall see. Interesting note, though. So I mentioned this before. Gen Con. I will be at Gen Con this year in Indianapolis. I am doing 2 panels at Gen Con this year. And they're both going to be Saturday, and they're practically back-to-back. I think I got an hour and a half between the 2 of them. They're going to be in the same space. If you are going to Gen Con, I will put the event ID down. I know May 18th this is going to come up after the start of the selling of tickets and stuff. But I'll put those down below. If you're interested, please come on by. The tickets are free. You don't have to pay for them. I don't do paid panels. And one is going to be called The Guns of Tanegashima. It's going to be about the Tanegashima matchlock and its influence in Japan and in anime. The other one is a panel that I did recently at Anime USA that I was able to redo because I was able to play music that I wasn't able to do on OnCon because of YouTube stuff. And that is going to be Cowboy, the music of Cowboy Bebop OST 1. So I'm going to be talking about Yoko Kanno and that particular soundtrack. Hope it's a fun one, and it's a lot of cool information coming out of that. So both panels, again, on the Saturday. The event numbers will be down below if you want to check them out. And if you're going, show up. Say hi to me. I'd love it if you did that. All right, so that's it for this week, and as always, take care of yourselves because I love you guys and I want to see you in the future. I want to meet you out in the world, and as always, watch more anime.